Hey guys, my name is Arya. I want to tell you a story that happened to me and honestly don't understand how I survived. You can call it a miracle. It all started on March 25th. My boyfriend had his birthday in 2 days, and even though our relationship was really rocky, I was looking for something to give him as a present. We both argued a lot, and this could be an excellent opportunity to fix things, so I had to give him a big gift. I found a girl on the internet that sold Marvel character figures, and when I went to her house, her boyfriend opened the door of their house, and she showed me all the figures. After choosing for a while, I got the Spider-Man one and left the house with a huge smile on my face. After that day, Tom, my boyfriend, started to treat me strangely. He was colder than usual, which worried me, but I was sure we would solve our problems. And a few days later, Tom invited me on a road trip to go and visit his parents, who live in a rural area, and I was glad to hear that things were starting to work out. What I didn't imagine at the time was that I would never actually get to meet them, because his family had died years ago. I still remember how that day Tom smiled from ear to ear, almost Machiavellian, but I could tell he was nervous and angry about something. I asked him what was wrong, but he just said he was nervous because I was going to meet his family, and I innocently believed him. As soon as I got into the car, I noticed that he didn't say a word or look at me. He was absorbed, and his head was somewhere else. Tom's car started going faster and faster toward the highway. I knew his parents lived in that direction, so I didn't suspect anything strange. When we got on the freeway, the weirdness really started to happen. Tom started to speed up more and more, until, after a few minutes, he was over the limit. I was getting really nervous, and to my cries of desperation, Tom's sudden response froze me in my tracks. He told me he knew I was with another man. He told me that he saw me go into a man's house while he was watching me on the sly. He told me that I came out with a big smile on my face, and that he decided he would never forgive me for that betrayal. Suddenly, Tom turned the car around and started driving down the freeway on the wrong side of the road. All the cars barely managed to avoid him. Luckily, there were very few people. But still, it was only a matter of time before an accident happened, as Tom increased his speed more and more. I tried to put on my seatbelt before I flew out the window, but to my surprise, it was gone. Someone had cut it off. As this happened, he looked at me with a terrifying smile and showed me his, which was in perfect condition. I yelled at Tom to let me go. I would never betray him, and I insisted that it was all to buy him a gift. This only made him angrier. He told me it was a lie, that I and all women only knew how to lie. With that said, Tom accelerated to crash into a truck. This time it was going to happen. The truck showed no signs of evading my boyfriend's car. I had to do something, or I would surely die. I impulsively grabbed Tom's steering wheel and swerved the car to the side. We crashed into a fence and fell down a small ravine straight into the river. Water began to pour into the car through my broken glass. Tom seemed to have passed out, so I took that moment to swim through the broken car window and escape. But suddenly, Tom grabbed my foot. His gaze was full of anger. This man wasn't interested in saving himself. He just wanted to kill me. As he grabbed my foot, I was running out of air, and to make it worse, I had some broken glass in my skin. Every time my body touched the car, I could feel those little pieces of glass penetrate my skin even further. I kicked Tom in the face as hard as I could, and on my third kick, he let go of me, and I took the opportunity to swim away. As I did so, I could see Tom stretching his arms out to catch me while the car was sinking deeper and deeper. Tom never made it out of the car. Ironically, it was the seatbelt that doomed him. But then again, he couldn't swim. Nearly drowning, I managed to get out and breathe. And when the police rescued me, I told them everything. There was no trial, and no one questioned what had happened to me. It turns out that Tom wasn't really Tom. His name was Francis, and he was a wanted criminal for murdering his entire family. That's why he lived so far away from them. From that day on, I could never trust again. I know that many people are actually good, and not all of them will want to kill me. But I have to go through a very big healing process. Every time someone approaches me, I see Tom reflected in their eyes. No matter how good the other person is, I feel that they are hiding a serial killer inside them. Hey, my name is Elodie, and believe me when I tell you, I would do anything for my kids. I know all mothers say that, but I had a chance to prove it on a field trip. It all happened one afternoon when I went with my kids to my parents' house. The kids were very insistent on stopping for snacks, so we did at a roadside store. And even though we stopped at a store on the side of the road, they still behaved badly. I was watching to make sure they didn't break anything at the store, until surprisingly, a voice behind me surprised me with a laugh, saying that children are terrible. When I turned around, a man was behind me. He had a generous face and a friendly smile. His eyes were wide open, and waiting for a response, he froze, staring at me. I laughed awkwardly and continued shopping, trying to concentrate on the kids. The man was still behind us, staring at us, looking for something from us. Even though they were just children, they could tell something strange was happening since they were much quieter now. I don't like anyone messing with my kids or making them feel bad. So, a little angry and in front of other people, I confronted him and asked why he was following us. In response, he just kept smiling, apologized for making us feel uncomfortable, and without buying anything, he just left. We continued shopping, and even though it took us a while to finish, we set off again. The ride was quieter than before, and the kids were much quieter. I kept driving and, for the first time, enjoyed the ride a little more. But after a few seconds, it started to feel weird. The kids are never that quiet, and I don't think they fell asleep that quickly. I looked in the rearview mirror to see if anything had happened to them, and surprise and fear took over my body. I couldn't believe my eyes. The man from before, with that maniacal, terrifying smile, was in the car. My children were paralyzed with fear. Neither of them could move because of the seatbelts, and he remained frozen between the two of them, attentive, staring at me. I asked him what he was doing in my car, and he replied, "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'm not a bad person. I want to ask you a favor. I want one of your children." I know I should have been furious at this answer, but all I could feel was fear. Crying and begging him to stop, I asked him to leave us alone. But in my response, he grabbed my daughter and opened the window. Was he about to drop with her? Terrified, I did the only thing I could do to save her. I increased the speed of the SUV, and then I braked as hard as I could. My kids were a bit hurt by the seatbelts, but they were fine. On the other hand, the man flew out the window and landed on the road in front of me. I had made it. My children were safe. But as I looked out the window, I saw that the psychopath was not only moving, but also standing up. I was not going to let it stand up again. Unable to control my anger, I ran over the man at full speed. After that, he didn't move anymore. Soon after, the police arrested me until they could figure out what was going on. Since this happened recently, I still don't know if I can go to jail for what happened, but I have no regrets. Shortly after, I found out that the man I hit had charges of sexual abuse. The police told me there probably won't be any problems, but whatever the outcome, I'm happy to make this world a better place for my children. Hey, I'm Sarah, and I love road trips. I love driving in the dark, the peace and quiet of the wheels bouncing against the ground, the silence of the night, and finding myself. I enjoy every road trip I take, except for the one that night. That night, the trip was long and lonely, but it was nothing I hadn't done before. When I reached the dark road, I slowed down and just enjoyed the ride. But something interrupted my peace. As I was driving, a silhouette crossed my path. I had to dodge it, but I still felt like I hit something. I braked violently, and my car almost went down the road. But I managed to control it and hold on. I looked out the window, and there I saw it. A dead animal was lying on the side of the road. I've always been an animal person and would never turn my back on a wounded animal, but this deer-like animal was definitely dead. There was nothing I could do about it. Since I was off the sidewalk, I restarted my car and went on my way. But something was different. The car felt heavier. I looked in the rearview mirror to make sure I was okay after the impact, and instead of seeing the mirror, I saw it. A face was peering out from above my roof. His piercing eyes were staring at me from above the roof to which he was clinging with his huge, inhuman arms. Aware that I had spotted him, he didn't let me react and stretched his hand out my window trying to attack me. I managed to dodge it, but my car spun out of control and ended up in the dirt on the side of the road. The creature flew into a bush in front of me and I lost sight of it. Scared, I started the car again, and before backing up, I saw him again. In front of me, it moved from one bush to another in a strange, animalistic way, as if it were a spider. Anyone else would think I had just encountered a monster, but I remember from my medical school days seeing this type of person. His arms and legs were completely disproportionate to the rest of his body. He was extremely tall, and his hands looked huge. This person was a human being, but he suffered from Marfan syndrome. I started to back the car up to get out of there, but then I heard it again. The same thump I felt when I saw the dead animal. At that moment, I realized that that noise did not mean I had run over it. That animal had been there for a long time, and the thump I heard was the sound of its killer climbing onto my roof. This person started hitting the car from above wildly. I was trapped. I thought I was going to die. This was supposed to be just a road trip. Now, I was destined to die on an abandoned road for no reason and in the hands of a psychiatrically unstable person. Suddenly, the rearview mirror inside the car gave me one more hope. In the distance, the lights of a car were shining and moving slowly. That was my only chance. Finding another car on this road was a great rarity. I tried to start the engine, and as the noise distracted my attacker, I opened the door and sped off as fast as I could. Halfway there, I turned around and saw him chasing me. He was no longer on all fours. Standing on his 2 feet and at great speed, he was chasing me down. Moving his arms up and down, the psycho caught up to me with inhuman speed and grabbed me by the hair, pulling me back. But I grabbed a rock on the way and smashed it into his ankle. Groaning in pain, he let go of me. I ran until I reached the car on the road, and luckily, it stopped, opened its doors, and the couple inside let me in. In the movies, people with mental health conditions escape when there are power outages or disturbances in the place, but real life is much more bitter. This asylum is usually the kind of place where you go in and you don't come out. The poor living conditions and lack of concern for the patients who wander in and out of the place make it a very dangerous establishment. I also learned that the families do not visit the patients, so they usually die alone in terrible living conditions. At that moment, I thought a monster was chasing me to kill me, but in reality, he and I were the same, a victim. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one.